Hi everybody, this is Jody Hand. I go by Mrs. Hand Painted on Instagram. Today I'm going to show you how to paint these rainbow carrots in watercolors. I am using a Princeton Velvetouch round size 10 for my brush today and Daniel Smith watercolors. And the paper I'm using today is Legion paper Stonehenge in size 9 by 12. This is 100% cotton paper. And I'm going to be painting these rainbow carrots in some various shades of orange, red, purple, and then I'll be using green for the stems. Really, you can use any colors that you want. I'm using today the Hansa Yellow Deep, Mayan Orange, Carbazole Violet, and the Pyrrol Red. And then I'll be using just some colors that were left over on my palette from previous paintings. Here I'm just making a carrot shape. I mixed together a little bit of the Mayan Orange and the Hansa Yellow Deep. And I'm not making these in a realistic fashion. It's just kind of a loose carrot painting. Here I'm just adding some tiny thin lines off the sides to represent the roots that are on a carrot. 'Cause when you actually pull a carrot from the ground, they have tons of these little tiny roots that come off of them. And I want these to be carrots that were freshly pulled from the garden. So they'll be a little dirty looking actually. And I had a little bit of burnt umber left on my palette I'm going to be using just to fill in a little bit of a dirty spots here in a minute. All right, so the green I'm using here is sap green, and I had a lot of that left on my palette still too. So kind of just go in on the top and let that blend in a little bit to my orange. And I did have a little bit more bleeding than I wanted here. And I'm mixing together a little Hansa Yellow Light with that green just to give it a lighter green. And if you're having trouble with the shape of the carrots, you can just Google rainbow carrots and you can get lots of different pictures of people's carrots that they pulled from the garden, or you can look at seed websites. They have lots of different varieties of carrots. Um, you can see the different color variations. They go all the way from white, pale yellow, darker yellow, orange, dark orange, red, purple. There's even some that are almost black. So there's lots of varieties of carrots that you could go, and they come in different lengths and shapes. And here I just blotted away some of that extra green that kind of bled in there. I didn't really want that to go down so far. And then as you pull carrots out, they have lots of these little lines going across. So after that dries a little bit, I can go over and add another layer just to give a little detail. I'm adding a little bit of that burnt umber to the top. And then for my carrot tops, I'm just going to use the tip of my brush and just kind of dab down onto the paper. I'm just going to add a few more little strokes in here very thinly to give that a little bit more of the foliage from the top of the carrot. And there's not really any fancy technique to this. You just want to go back and forth and add small little lines just to give some fullness there. And then I'll go in and I'll dab with my brush to give that very fluffy looking carrot tops that they have. All right, so the next carrot I want to do is kind of a purple carrot. So I'm using some of my Carbazole Violet, a little bit of this Pyrrol Red to give it more of a red-violet color. And I'll make this one bigger, and I'll kind of give it the illusion of being behind that other carrot. So I'll kind of just come around the side and have that coming from behind. And I'm pretty much just going to follow along the same method for doing each carrot. I'll do a wash in my base color and then add a little bit of shading, do another wash over certain areas, and then while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'll do the carrot tops, doing the green part. And then by the time I finish that green part, the colored part of the carrot should be finished drying or enough dry that I can add my second layer over the top and make my little detailed lines. And I can use the same color that I just did for the carrot to do those details across, add the little roots, add the lines going across horizontally, and then even using a little bit of a brown shade to give those little dirty spots that the carrots have when they come out of the ground. And I'm not going to explain every single individual carrot here. I'll just let you watch the rest of it. And you can do as many as you want, do different arrangements, make some of the carrots crooked, give it some variation, and really just make it however you want. You don't have to do it exactly like I did. You could do different variations. You could do all orange carrots. You could do any variation of shapes and sizes. This would be a really great piece to put in your kitchen if you really like cooking, or if you're a gardener. I love carrots in my garden, and it's really great to be pulling them out of the ground. It's very satisfying to pull a carrot. Here I'm just adding the foliage on the top again, just dabbing my brush, and you want the top of your carrot top to be a little bit lighter, and then it gets darker as it goes up. And then you want that dark area at the top of the carrot kind of bleeding into the top of your colored part of your carrot. And here I'm just adding my detailed horizontal lines going across my carrot, adding a little more shading, some roots. And then I had a little bit of that burnt umber on my palette. I'm just going to add that and then kind of blend that in with a little bit of water. And really, you don't want these carrots to be too perfect, because the carrots you see in the grocery store are always the best of the best. But when you're growing them in your own garden, some of them come out crooked or twisted. They come smaller, longer, skinnier. They're not all uniform size. So you really want to do some variations on this to make it look like what carrots would look like coming out of your garden. All right, here I'm going to do a yellow one. I did a little bit of the Hansa yellow with that, and then I'm going to make kind of a crooked carrot here too. And like I said, if you want some help figuring out some different shapes of carrots, I would definitely just Google some pictures of carrots or some seed catalogs. They'll have pictures. It'll give you some different variations and ideas on how to do the shapes of carrots. And I will add some another carrot in between those two. I think I'll do a red one in there. right, and just adding my details here on that carrot, finishing that up. And I think I'll do another one. I'll use my Hansa Yellow Light. Just finding a little spot on my palette here to mix some up. Like I said, I really don't like to wash my palettes up every time because there's still a lot of paint on there, and I try to use a lot of it on a next painting, but sometimes my palette just keeps getting fuller and fuller of paint, and eventually I do end up washing it off. But here I'm going to do a yellow carrot, kind of a skinny one. I'm just adding my little root details coming off of that. And just add a little bit of a shadow there with a little bit darker shade of that yellow. And then adding my green tops. All right, so now I think I'm going to do one of these carrots that I really like that are kind of fun. They're called Parisian carrots, and they're kind of just little round balls they actually end up being, and they're really nice for roasting if you actually grew them. But this one's just a little different shape just to show some variation in carrots. And this one, they're short and round, and usually a darker brownish orange color. Sometimes they're brighter orange, but I'm going to make this one a little more brown orange. And I use some of that Mayan orange mixed in with my yellow, a little bit of the burnt umber to get that color. And none of these shapes really need to be perfect. Like I said, all carrots are kind of bumpy and knobby and crooked, so really don't need to be very exact. It can be kind of wonky looking, if you will. Yeah, I'm just going to add my green tops just like I did for my previous carrots and keep going, adding my details over the top of that wash and adding in my carrot foliage. And I'm going to go ahead and add one last carrot in here in between those two. I'm using some of this Pyrrol red to mix up for a kind of like a cosmic red carrot or a red cord chantenay. I'm just going to add that, make it look like it's going from behind that carrot. Just going right up to the edge and making sure that I don't blend over the top of that. Fill that in, and I'll continue on just adding all my details just like I did for the other carrots. And just adding the last of my green carrot foliage on there. Add a few more details to my red carrot. And I did need to go back and add that to my little round carrot as well. Add the details on that one. And I didn't do a background on this initially, so I'm going to add some little paint splatters, just watering down my brush a little bit and dipping it in the colors I use for my carrots and just adding some paint splatters all over. And I don't really mind if it goes across all the carrots. You could certainly use your hand or a piece of paper to block the carrots and the foliage if you didn't want your splatters to go across those, but I don't mind it. I kind of like the look of it going across the entire page. So I'm just dipping into each of the colors that I had mixed up on my palette from painting my carrots and just doing some splatters across my page in those colors just to finish that off and kind of give it a little bit of a background since I didn't do a wash across the back. And that's it. I finishing up here my splatters, and I really like the way that these carrots turned out. Kind of a quirky little painting to put up. And there's so many variations on carrots that you could do with this. I'm just going to go ahead and dry my splatters here so that I don't smush them around or blur them. I just want to thank you guys for watching my video. I'm going to be adding lots more tutorials coming forward. I really hope that you'll subscribe to my channel. I'll be adding new videos all the time. Sometimes I'll just put a process video up, and other times I'll do a full tutorial and explain my process here on some of my paintings. I'm learning every day, and so are you. Practice makes progress. So the more that we paint every day, the better we get. And if you want to share your finished paintings with me, I would love to see them. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow at Mrs. Handpainted, and you can use my hashtag Mrs. Handpainted, and I can see your paintings. I'd love to see if you follow one of my tutorials and do one of my paintings.